Welcome back. This is our continuing coverage of the midnight session of Parliament, the midnight tryst with GST that India is going to have. At midnight there's going to be a gong that's going to ring there in the Parliament building, and that means GST is there to stay. One of the most talked about tax reforms ever in India. People are calling this the biggest tax reform that independent India has ever seen, and it's going to kick in at midnight. Now, here we have a range of experts. We've been also listening to people ranging from the Chief Economic Commissioner, Chief Economic Advisor. We're going to be hearing from Nitin Gadkari shortly, Anand Sharma, Amit Mitra. A range of people are going to be joining us and our other experts to tell us what to expect, to tell us what to think about. But before I introduce all of our experts and guests, let me just go across to Sunita Chaudhary, who's still there. Hasn't gone off to join those Muhurat shopping sessions that she was threatening to do because it's not raining, and she has a nicely lit up Parliament right behind her. Sunita, so from what we are understanding, President's going to arrive at about 10:55 or so, and then after that there's going to be speeches, the Finance Minister, then the President and the Prime Minister at about 11:15. Is that roughly the schedule?
That's right, and you know, I can tell you right now, in this beautiful building behind me, you have everyone working overtime. You also have Minister Anand Kumar having a bit of a briefing session where they're telling reporters how they're making last-minute changes. He's of course referring to that change in the tax slab after lots of protests at the last GST Council meeting, which concluded a short while ago. It's of course followed by that dinner as a thank you by the Finance Minister for members of the GST Council. But after that, they announced that the fertilizer tax rate was being made much lower, from the 12% to 5%. So Anand Kumar, they're just briefing the media and telling them what kind of saving the farming community is going to benefit from. Apart from that, we're also hearing about other last-minute changes, things like the tractor tax going down as well. But it's really about atmospherics. I think some of the managers in there, and we know that a lot of the people who are behind the scenes, a lot of the government managers, they have been really frantic about the fact that they have to put this show together, full of its drama, because the last time that they had this kind of midnight session, everyone's referring to the fact it's the 17th year of independence, and the last time you had something like that was, of course, during independence.
Yeah.
And they're pointing out, and that is one of the sore points with the opposition. If you look at Rahul Gandhi's tweets, if you look at some of the voices coming from Mamata Banerjee and others, they're saying, why are you doing that? Well, you should first act and see how it plays out instead of going through with it and having a big show. They're of course pointing out to the kind of protests that have been taking place across the country, but others point out, and the government points out, that this is a reform which has been in the process for the last 17 years, so many years. It may not be perfect, but they're improving it. It's no reason to not have it. And so, in just under an hour from now, Vikram, we're going to see all the MPs coming in. I was speaking to a few MPs before, and they said some of them are just making it in from their constituencies. I guess everybody, you know, you said that I was glad that it's not raining. I think everybody's really glad that it is looking a little better now. Yeah. Everyone going in there to Parliament House.
Of course, Sunita, it's not raining inside Parliament no matter what happens, unless the roof starts to leak, which certainly will not happen. I hope it's going to happen in a special session like this. Sunita, thanks for joining us once again, and I am going to come back to you, of course, a little later. I'll allow you to go and get that briefing on the last-minute changes that are happening. You know, Venu, I have to ask you, we've quite often done budget sessions together, and we sometimes laugh about the fact that people keep saying, Finance Minister making last-minute changes to the budget just before his speech, and it's obviously a joke because you can't make last-minute changes to a budget speech. Yeah. In this case, it's actually happening. They're making those changes, you know, for farmers. And actually, perhaps just on cue, I see Mr. Changal Reddy there, who's from the Secretary General of the Confederation of Indian Farmers Association, who's joining us. There has actually been a last-minute change, sir, which has just been made. Fertilizer rates on GST been brought down, some relaxation given on tractors as well. Is this something, and as I said, it's very unusual that it's going to happen just before the session starts. Do you welcome this, and are there any other changes that you would like to see?
Well, actually, I was thinking to show these two to the audience, but since you gave me a happy news, Probably this is what I wanted to tell Mr. Modi. But now that you gave me a happy news, I am going to tear it off. Now the first thing, we farmers are happy that there is going to be a uniform taxation across the country. But what we want Government of India and Mr. Modi to understand is, you have to look at agriculture from two perspectives. Firstly, it's the farming sector that gives you both food as well as raw material. And secondly, agriculture inputs are the basis on which the entire farming community sustenance comes through. So to begin with, I must say, I'm happy that that last minute the better sense prevailed on Mr. Jaitley and reduced fertilizer and pesticide tax. But I would also suggest that he should also consider reducing taxes on pesticides, drip equipment. Because very interestingly, other day Mr. Modi's Prime Minister office asked us, what is your view on water conservation equipment? Now we saw that drip equipment from 5% it went up to 18%. Therefore, I welcome, but my suggestion in this entire exercise is, over the period of next 1 year, you must make midterm corrections, because I will also like to talk about that food processing taxation. Later on I will do it. And I must say thank you. You have given me a very happy news, and my compliments to Mr. Modi and all his colleagues for this fertilizer and tax issues.
It's rare to see a demand placard actually being torn up on air, so I'm glad, Mr. Chengal Reddy, you're happy, with that.
No, but I'm happy. See, I'm happy. I'm really happy that Mr. Modi could make last-minute corrections.
Sir, the very fact that you're having last-minute corrections, though, that are being made, and the fact that you can accept demands and move it up and down, is what some people will say is one of the issues with the way GST is actually now being brought up. With so many different rates, there is always the possibility for lobbying to take place, from 18 to 12, from 5 to 12.
In fact, Vikram, 3 days ago, there was a news item which Finance Ministry, it came from the Finance Ministry, and it gave a reprieve to e-commerce players, Amazon, Flipkart, and so they've got some reprieve. GST is not being imposed on because there are some complications, taxation there. And this was raised probably by the Amazon global CEO Jeff Bezos with the PM in America.
So in a sense, it's good that they're fixing the problems as they're going along.
No, these are not fixing. These are still exceptions.
These are exemptions that are of course going to kick in, and what the issues of that are going to be.
Let
me get a couple of more political voices in. Mr. Raja, Yogendra Yadav, just the exercise that is taking place in Parliament today, and look, we quite often slam politicians for taking their own interests. Whatever else you may say, and yes, I know this is still, people are saying it's not a perfect, in fact the government itself is saying it's not a perfect GST, we'll keep trying to improve it as it goes forward. But as an exercise in cooperative federalism, and as a fact that the centre and the states, the opposition and the government all got together to push something through, Yogendra Yadav, would that make you happy, what has actually happened there?
Would have been a happy occasion if we were honest about it. The fact that it's a cross-party consensus, that every party came together, at least finally, after a lot of obstruction actually by the BJP initially, that they came together, would have been nice. But for this last-minute show business, I honestly don't understand, why do you need to use Parliament as a platform for rituals of this kind? All the parliamentarians could have gathered somewhere. They could have given speeches, but I honestly don't understand why use Parliament if for things other than deliberation. Parliament is there to deliberate. It's a significant moment. It's a significant moment of tax reform, something that was awaited, something that has gone through a lot of changes, and yes, political parties have come together. It would be a step in the right direction, but this showmanship, when I was listening to your correspondent, the word show, all the optics, all this getting right, I mean that's something that I don't feel very happy about. That's not how you do it, and I think that is probably one of the reasons why you have this tension between parties, someone saying I will boycott it and so on and so forth. All this because what would have been a cooperative effort is being presented as one party's singular achievement.
Although D. Raja, having said that, if the opposition had gone inside Parliament, if you would be, the left had been there, the Congress had been there, then it would have, all of you would have also been there to take credit, if that's the phrase, for the passage of GST. So Mr. Raja, do you think at the end of the day perhaps the opposition should have been inside?
Firstly, we should be very clear. It is not a session of the Parliament. As you call it, is not midnight session of the Parliament. It is just a midnight program, midnight celebration, midnight meeting held in Central Hall of the Parliament. So it is not session of the Parliament. Let us not confuse. Secondly, you are talking about cooperative federalism. What do you mean by federalism? Federalism is always on the basis of cooperation, mutual trust, mutual accommodation of concerns. And my question is, what is going to happen to the fiscal federalism when the GST is rolled out? That is one of the fundamental issues which we can debate. But when GST is rolled out...
But Mr. Raja, whatever happened in the GST Council has had the states present. Whatever happened in the GST Council, the states have been present. There have been state finance ministers, including ministers belonging to the opposition parties. So in a sense, it's not something that has not been widely discussed, including between the opposition and the government, to be fair.
Definitely issues have been discussed and issues are to be discussed. And many things are not clear. In fact, I said during the debate in Parliament, we are entering into an unknown terrain. And what would be the consequences? Neither the government nor the political parties are very clear. So government will have to treat very cautiously. This is what I said. Now why this hurry? Because there are serious apprehensions. I hail from Tamil Nadu. What is happening in Tamil Nadu today, you must be knowing. And the traders are agitating, weavers are agitating, and the leather industry is agitating.
I guess the good news for the government...
firecracker industry is agitating.
Yeah, I guess the good news from the government's point of view is that Mr. Changal Reddy, as on this program, is not agitating anymore as of 15 minutes ago. So that's good news. Jagdish Shettikar, if I can just...
What is the good... No, only one good news. That is, we are creating one market for the whole nation. One nation, one market. It can benefit corporate houses, big business houses to move their goods and services as they like. But my point is how it is going to benefit common people. The price monitoring and control under GST, how it is going to work.
Monitoring is
anti-profiteering administrative structure, how it is going to work. Even look at the GST rates. Gold is fixed at 3%, whereas the essential services goods are fixed at 18%, 28%. What is the rationality? What is the logic?
All right. All right, you're saying how are people actually benefiting on the ground? Before I want to actually go across to some of our correspondents who are out there, certainly with a group of very happy truckers who are happy with the market, but also others. But Jagdish Shettikar, I just wanted to get you in on this point because it's been debated, and it's in a sense, this is almost overtaken the debate over GST itself, is whether you should have this grand function in Parliament or whether it is in some way demeaning there's a certain precedent that the Congress says is being, and the opposition in general seems to be saying, is not being honoured by doing this inside Parliament.
So it is a historic moment. It's not just introducing the finance bill, as you rightly said that it is not a session. There is a constitutional amendment, and hereafterwards the decision will be taken with regard to the tax not by the finance minister. Raja has been raising the issue that we are moving away from the federalism. In fact, it is the real federalism. I mean, till now, it was the finance minister who used to decide the tax rate, what should be the tax rate. But hereafterwards, the GST council consisting of representative of all the states, that too not on the basis of the majority, but on the basis of the consensus. Which means that you are reducing the power of the finance minister. Only power he has got is the expenditure power.
This is not a big...
Now, of course, I am also aware that it may not be an ideal GST, and with regard to the impact on the price level, I would have been happy if the petroleum products are also brought into the thing, because that is a worrying point, because I think there is a compromise. There was a demand from the states to keep tobacco and liquor outside, I mean, in order to protect their interest, and in the same way I think the centre has its own.
Right. Now, let me just go across, to somebody who's been very instrumental in the entire discussions around GST, helped to push it through. Now, of course, not quite as happy as he once was, and that's, of course, the Finance Minister of West Bengal, Mr. Dr. Amit Mitra, whom I spoke to just a short while back. And as you will see from this excerpt of what he had to say, he's not pleased at all. Amit Mitra.
I think it is very sad. 1.5 months ago, I said in the GST Council, please give us a white paper on preparedness. Preparedness of whom? The stakeholder, the business, small, medium enterprise people. 2 is GSTN, GST network. Are they ready? And 3, of course, is state and center vis-a-vis training. Have we trained trainers who will then go and train others? I never got a white paper. So GST Council remains in the dark on the level of preparedness. I did meet the GSTN people independently. They had done a test, can you imagine, of 200 companies per state when they are going to process, once it takes off, 300 crore invoices uploaded. And this will include IGST, that means interstate, integrated GST interstate trade. So it's a sad day today that instead of finding a reasonable, I'm not saying there will be no glitches to the ultimate outcome, a reasonable amount of time given to them. Are you aware that the rules have been finalized finally day before yesterday, notified? Are you aware that the tax rates have been finalized for the last set on 3rd of June? Remember, in Germany and Japan, when they made these tax changes, they gave 12 months to 18 months. I'm really saddened, and my conscience doesn't allow me to sit there and clap when I know, and Mamata Banerjee has said it very clearly, draconian sections, arrest, then all kinds of things which we had objected to. Let's have a discussion on that, see how we can improve it. No, it has to be now. And I must tell you, I was most sad to hear one of the ministers of the BJP government, a very well-versed minister, saying the other day, well, push them into the deep end of the swimming pool, the water. Only then they will learn how to swim. But he's not empathetic about the fact that crores of small and medium businesses may just sink instead of learning to swim and pushed into the water. This is not the way that we had expected, with so much time and effort. 17 meetings of the GST Council, Empowered Committee which I chaired, brought a consensus in the Calcutta meeting, a historic consensus. And is this the end product, that we're all interested in event management? We're going to play the drum and hear people clapping when we know in our hearts that this is not functional.
All right. That was a rather impassioned Amit Mitra speaking to me a little earlier, just a couple of hours back, and as you can see, his rather strong views there. And but actually he and many other members of the opposition were very people who've been really instrumental in getting this through in the first place and in taking part in all of those discussions. But today, many of them are not going to be there inside Parliament, not from the Trinamool Congress, not from the Congress, and not from a few others. However, out there are other people who have a completely different point of view, including truckers who are absolutely delighted at one aspect of what's going to happen with GST. Remember, it is going to be a single market now. So those long nights waiting at checkpoints to pay octroi, to be shaken down, that's going to end. So we have reporters out there. Saurabh Gupta is out there, I think, at a octroi point. Nikhil Pandey is there with a bunch of truckers. And Maya Sharma, of course, has found the best spot of all of them, which is inside a shopping mall, as it were, and having a great time out there. Maya comparing prices both before and after, and no doubt you've been doing research since we were last on you. Most prices, Maya, going up or down?
Well, yes, that's the big question really for shoppers here. You've come in to shop now. After midnight, you know there's going to be a whole lot of discounts. But are you thinking that most prices will go up or go down thanks to GST?
Ma'am, it will be some up because the rate of taxes will be high. Before it is a 15%, now it will be 18%. So it will it will be high only.
Okay.
But I appreciate the government of India has initiated the concept and they implemented it within a time. And it is all over India one taxes.
So ready to pay that extra 3%. Are you concerned that your grocery bills will go up now with taxes going up in GST?
Definitely, ma'am, we are concerned because we used to buy stuff from Big Bazaar itself because of low price as compared to the market. But now, as we can see, that prices are going up. So
this shopping now, are you paying for it now or are you going to be waiting till midnight? Because you've already paid. You decided to pay
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
decided to pay the rate. Now, what is actually going to be going up, Naveen? You're here with the store.
There are certain commodities which are going up, like rice is going up, and there are certain commodities which is coming down.
Okay.
Like there are changes. It is from 2% to 22%.
22%.
Yeah.
Okay. And right now, in fact, I think the systems are being upgraded.
So the systems are being upgraded. At the back end, the GST structure has been incorporated so that the input, output and the stock can be taken care of. And at the front end, the billing software has been upgraded to bring out invoice which is compliant to GST regime.
And that all kicks off at midnight.
At midnight.
At midnight, okay. So this shop, getting ready, shoppers have come in also and trying to get the best that they can out of the new tax regime.
All right, Maya, but we do have all the experts out here from BMR, KPMG, the others, and we're going to be asking them to tell us more things going up or going down. Mr. Chengal Reddy, I do promise to come to you in just a minute, but I want to just go back to Nikhil Pandey and Saurabh, get a very quick sense from them as to what truckers and others at those octroi points are telling you about the single market, because that's obviously one of the big benefits. Nikhil, why don't I come to you first? Nikhil?
Well, Vikram, we're at one of those excise octroi points on the Punjab-Haryana border. Let me just get a sense right from them. आप ये बताइए, आप जानते हैं कि GST टैक्स जो आने वाला है वो क्या है?
हाँ जी, इसके लिए हमें जो सरकार को टैक्स देना पड़ता है, जो कम था वो कहीं ज़्यादा हो गया, काफ़ी चीज़ों में ऐसा है कि जिनमें ज़्यादा था उनमें कम हो गया।
अच्छा, उमेश जी आप बताइए कितने घंटों के लिए ऐसी लाइनें जो हैं, ट्रक ड्राइवर्स जो हैं, कितने घंटों के लिए खड़े रहते हैं ऐसी लाइनें?
कम से कम 5-6 घंटे लाइनों में खड़े रहते हैं और कोई पूछता नहीं है। बहुत परेशानी होती है। अब तो मौसम साफ है, कभी इतनी बारिश होती है तो अपने खड़े होने के लिए अब देख लो यहाँ रोड पे ऐसे खड़े रहते हैं, सारी बारिश ऊपर गिरती है अपने पर।
Joining us also is Iqbal Singh जी, he is the president of the Ambala Transporters Association. इकबाल सिंह जी बताइए, GST के बाद ट्रांसपोर्टर्स पे क्या प्रभाव होने वाला है, क्या बदलेगा GST के बाद?
यही है, अभी ये बैरियर हट जाएंगे, थोड़ा आराम हो जाएगा।
और जो इतने घंटे लाइनों में खड़े रहते हैं और इतने टैक्स लगते हैं, वो लगेंगे लाइनें, मतलब टाइम घटेगा लाइनों में?
लाइनों में तो टाइम घटेगा ही, जब GST लग जाएगा तो वहीं से अब बिल साथ बन के आएंगे तो यहाँ फिर अब बैरियर हटे जब भी हमें फायदा है GST।
और ये जो ऑनलाइन टैक्सेशन का मुद्दा है, डिजिटल इंडिया का, उसके बारे में क्या कहेंगे?
कैसे बैरियर तो हटने चाहिए हमें, जब भी फायदा है, और क्या है।
So the sense that we get, Vikram, is that, and we've also been speaking to a lot of truck drivers, many of them don't know entirely about what the GST is, but from those voices the sense that we get is a sense of anticipation. It's just under 2 hours now. The lines will reduce, seemingly the time taken to deliver the goods will reduce, so the efficiency of that transporting and logistics industry is likely to increase, but we will of course be tracking that.
Right. 1 hour 36 minutes actually, to be precise. I see it's just tipped over to 10:24. Saurabh, which also tells me that we better start moving faster because we need to go to Parliament really soon. So Saurabh, very quickly, what is happening around you?
Well, at the moment, Vikram, the trucks are still here at this octroi Naka. This is where the trucks enter Mumbai from, and all of them end up paying octroi here. But most of them say that the truckers who are actually going to drive into Mumbai, they say they're very pleased. But on this other side, if I can see you, there are a lot of people, clearing agents, who right now are very worried of what they're going to do, because they, of course, look after clearing all the trucks that go into Mumbai, and their jobs obviously at stake. So they are a worried lot, saying we don't know what to do from tomorrow onwards, given that there is going to be no octroi in just about 1 hour 30 minutes from now. A little more than that. So obviously some kind of despondent faces also here. while the truckers are happy with the decision that they will not have to put up with these long lines, some people on the other side really worried about what they do. The BMC officials are going to come in on the last shift here, is also saying that they are going to be here to process refunds and all of that, but a little bit of lack of clarity still prevails on the ground.
Something which we keep hearing, and look, the government itself says they are going to be teething troubles and hopefully people will sort it out, but I think both of you are standing with some of the people who stand to benefit the most. Right, I'm going to take a very quick break right now, and after that, as I said, we do have a lot of the tax experts out here who are going to tell us their sense of prices up, prices down, what's likely to happen. We'll do that when we come back in just a couple of minutes, and then we will start to move across to Parliament as well to see what is going to be happening there. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back. Well, let me just get a quick final word from both Mr. Raja and Yogendra Yadav, who have to leave us, and then I'm going to go across to Gurcharan Das, who just joined us. Mr. Raja, any final quick thoughts you want to leave us with before the Parliament meeting starts?
No, I agree with Mr. Mitra, the West Bengal Finance Minister. The very same issue was raised in Parliament, not only by me, but by Mr. Subramania Swamy, who is member of BJP. He also raised the GST-N. Is it in place? I also asked the same question, is it in place? Whether country is prepared, government is fully equipped to roll out GST. That's what I said. What is happening today is nothing but government wants to do it in hurry for its own publicity or claiming to be an achievement. It is for government. I have no problem with that. But why this hurry? Is it going to help the country as a whole? The states, in fact, I am telling you, in Tamil Nadu, the state government has been implementing PDS as universal system, but now they were supporting that, they have been supporting that universal scheme, public distribution system with their own resources. Now what is going to happen? That scheme. So there are many issues, many concerns, many apprehensions which need to be addressed before we roll out such a historic, momentous tax reform.
All right, Mr. Raja, thanks for joining us. Yogendra Yadav, final quick thoughts from you, and then I'm going to go across to Gurcharan Das.
Vikram, let's separate the principle of GST, which to my mind is positive. It's a step in the right direction, should be welcomed, from the actual design and implementation, where I think there are lots and lots of issues. And the impression that I still have is that the design is such that it is tilted against the large informal economy, including some very, very poor and marginal shopkeepers, farmers, unemployed, people in the unorganized sector. And that's what I worry, and when I hear Ashok Mitra, my worries are sort of strengthened. Have we prepared enough? Have we carefully designed it? Do we have, is the government adequately prepared? Is the business and everyone else adequately prepared? I worry because this government has a tendency of economic adventurism, as we saw in demonetization. And I sincerely hope that we are not getting into one of those situations once again.
All right. Yogendra Yadav, thanks a lot for joining us. Gurcharan Das, what's the view from London? Because GST, obviously a reform that many have been talking about, many have been waiting for. And a lot of the foreign press has been, for example, talking about the fact that it's going to get a lot of people into the formal sector, going to increase tax compliance and factors like that. What's your view on what's about to happen for exactly 1 hour 30 minutes from now?
Well, from London, I can only say the contrast is dramatic, because here Tory Brexiteers are fighting for symbols of sovereignty. And ironically, in India, we have chosen the path of full sovereignty, meaning that 29 states and 7 union territories are voluntarily giving up some sovereignty in taxation, for the common good. And so it's a dramatic thing that India, India doesn't behave very sensibly very often. But in this case, I think it's a symbol, where a symbol of really
a sobering recognition that the freedom to act independently in our interconnected world is an illusion. So that's the other comment that I want to make from here.
So Gurcharan, if I can just take you up on that point, if I can just take you up on your point, so you can argue about is it perfect, which it is not. I don't think anybody is saying that this is perfect. Is it a compromise? Yes, it is. Everyone is accepting that. Should you have waited? People are saying, well, you might as well take the plunge. But I think you pointed on one of the positives of this, which I don't think anybody, not even the opposition or the government, is going to disagree with. This is a moment where India's politicians came together to get something done, and the states and the centers came together to get something done with full discussion at the GST. And as you said, the states in a sense almost volunteered or agreed to give up some of their rights in the national interest. So those are, I think, some of the positives to take from this, which you can't argue about.
The states gave up some rights, the center gave some rights, and this is a very rare in a country with with very independent states that we have. We are argumentative people, and for the common good. I think that's what makes this a very important, visionary, constitutional moment in India's history that we should be proud of. Now, it's not a perfect GST. We know the weaknesses, etc. But I'm one of those persons who says that I'm glad that the government did not wait 9 months or a year the way Amit Mitra was just going on and on. I'm glad that we didn't make the enemy, the best, the enemy of the good. We will get, and I think that we will fix things on the run. But God, we've been waiting, and it's been more than 10 years in the making, and it had to start at some point. So I think we should be proud of this moment, this historic moment.
All right, we should be proud of this historic moment, says Gurcharan Das, joining us from London. Don't wait anymore. Don't let the best become the enemy of the good. Right, those are pictures of the Prime Minister just arriving there in Parliament. I think it's about 20-25 minutes to go before we should take you across to Parliament for that session as it happens. I'm actually tempted to finish any breaks that we might have well before that, so I'm going to take one more break, just a couple of minutes, and then after that, all the tax experts we have out here, we're going to get you to answer for many people who are watching and tuning in right now. The crucial question that they have are, by and large, are we going to be better off or worse off as a result of GST? And including many shoppers who are trying to decide whether they should buy before midnight or after midnight in all of those malls. So we're going to get you to answer that particular question and then take you across to Parliament. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. So these are pictures from inside Parliament, which, as you could see, was all lit up for its midnight tryst with GST. The special meeting, I've had some people saying you shouldn't be calling it a session of Parliament, which it isn't. It's a meeting that is taking place inside there. Arun Jaitley, the Finance Minister, who's of course one of the people who's been really pushing through GST and evolving the consensus, trying to herd what must have been like herding a pack of wild cats actually to get them to come to some sort of a consensus, and so continuing to shake hands in there. We did see the Prime Minister has also arrived in Parliament. I can see Nirmala Sitharaman there also shaking hands and talking to people. Nitin Gadkari there, whom we did speak to a little earlier, and was talking about how historic a step there is. I think that session and Parliament itself is going to really kick off in about 5-10 minutes time, and we will take you across there and show you everything that is happening. But let me just quickly get some final views. I've heard Mr. Chengal Reddy, if I could just get your takes, Sushma Swaraj there also. So maybe we can all talk over a little bit over the pictures that we are seeing. Chengal Reddy, I want to get a final thought from you. I've really heard two dominant voices all through the day today. One saying, don't allow the perfect to become the enemy of the good. This may be not perfect, but it's a good thing, so let's do it. Second voice saying, why the hurry? Now that you've got your fertilizer rate down, which of these two sentiments would you agree with, Mr. Chengal Reddy, before you leave us?
I very much welcome it, and the decision part of it, no problem. You see, every issue, over a period of time only can be sorted out. There is nothing like starting in a perfect manner. Now I see three great opportunities in this GST. First of all, curtailing the wastage. Huge, almost 1.5 lakh crores you used to wasted. Now this can be made into a value addition. There enormous opportunities are coming. But one thing I want this GST committee to look into is how do you increase the consumption of processed ones? Because you see, normally processed ones is considered as a luxury. In my view, it's not so. The time has come for Government of India go on increasing consumption so that you see it will create jobs, curtail wastage, and then it will also solve your malnutrition problem.
All right, Mr. Channel Reddy, thank you for joining us.
It's a very good move and I welcome it. Thanks.
Right, so now while we're waiting for the function, for whatever's happening inside Parliament to actually begin, we have assembled a battery of some of the top tax experts in the country who are going to help us all understand that basic question. Prices going up, prices going down. Because while people are tuning in for this, that's one of the questions. Yeah, we've discussed what it means for the country. What does it mean for all of us? So, Mahesh, why don't I start with you? Give us your quick snapshot. By and large, most people better off, worse off?
I think by and large, most people neutral. Services go up a bit, insurance, telecom, banking services that you avail. Some of the goods are indeed getting cheaper, toothpaste, soap, so the daily needs, that's coming down. One-off purchases, white goods, appliances, they move up from about 26 to about 28%. So on an average, I think it'll all even out and it should be largely neutral, but it'll even help traders to start and the entrepreneurs, small and medium scale, to do more business.
But for most people, not a major difference, you're saying?
I would think so.
Santosh Dalvi, let me get you in on that note. Your snap take on by and large prices. We've of course had those graphics up all this time saying what is specifically going up or down. For most people, is GST going to hit them in their pocket or help them in their pocket?
So first of all, heartiest congratulations to India as entire country for witnessing such an historic event. Of course, there can never be a perfect beginning, but as we have been going through the various analysis across sectors and industries, yes, there was a stated objective of the government to keep inflation in check and prices under control. From that perspective, they have ensured that prices of various goods and services at large have been aligned with the current tax structure. But at the same time, the benefit of GST in terms of reduction in tax cost as well as cost of production going down and the entire distribution network getting becoming more and more efficient, certainly the benefit across various sectors should be available. But expecting that in the immediate short run would be unfair, but certainly medium to long term, the overall it would help the various cost of goods and services to come down.
All right, we've been continuing to see these pictures. That's L.K. Advani there. We were seeing Mr. Arun Jaitley standing there, Sumitra Mahajan, the speaker, there as well. We're continuing to see these pictures while we get all the various tax experts we have to just try and give us some sort of a sense of what's going up and what's going down. Nishant Shah, if I can come across to you as well. We're seeing some of these things, you know, shoes cheaper, XYZ higher. Services, is that one of the areas? And Amit Shah there I can see as well on the floor of the House. Anything that you want to touch upon, what's going to be more expensive, what's going to be cheaper, while we wait for the Parliament meeting to start?
I think the Finance Minister has, right from the first point, has been propagating this aspect of the equivalence principle. That is that, you know, the current tax burden, they have tried to ensure that most of the products continue to be on the same tax burden that they are currently bearing. And therefore I think that overall on a broad scale, the prices would remain same, except for the initial portion that it may see some turmoil because of funds getting invested into the till they roll around in the credits, which might get initially, thereafter they'll become rolling around into the economy. But overall I see that, you know, because of the credit flow through, the later on, and with the revenue being larger earned by the government, there may be a possibility for them to reduce the rates, and which in the long term may be a big benefit for the country as a whole and for the consumers as well. One aspect also would be the ease of doing business, which GST will bring in, you know, with multiple taxes, 17 taxes being merged into one single tax. You know, foreign investors will start seeing it more effectively. That will also a very good impetus to the economy.
All right, Mukesh Butani, let me get you in. Of course, some of the people are still somewhat confused, not just the traders, but there are others who are also slightly confused. Like, for example, people keep getting these scary messages saying that on your credit card bills, it's now 3% more, and people start saying if I'm spending 1,000 rupees on my credit card, it means 3% of 1,000 rupees I'm going to pay more. That's not it, right?
That's not it. Clearly, if you default your credit card payment and the bank charges you a penalty, there's a service tax on that penalty. That service tax is going up from 15 to 18%, not otherwise.
And insurance similarly, and telecom similarly.
No, in telecom services you will be charged on the service that's
on whatever
provided
service
by the telecom.
Yeah, but that's in the nature of every service.
Yeah. I just wanted to supplement to what Mahesh and the other panelists were saying. I think, naturally people's focus is on rates, but GST is not all about rates, what's getting cheaper or what's getting expensive. It's all about trying to bring about an ecosystem which is aligned to the global practices, trying to bring about a certain part of the economy which is a parallel economy, trying to bring about more efficiency in the credit mechanism. So I think it's a more wholesome tax reform rather than all about a rate exercise.
Right. Professor Arun Kumar, who's also joining us, and we're continuing to show you these pictures from Parliament. Uma Bharti, I can see there, Mr. Paswan. We will of course take you to Parliament as soon as the President arrives, which is going to formally kick off whatever is happening out there. Professor Arun Kumar, when individuals are watching this right now, we've heard all the discussion about the country and federalism and the state and what it means for revenues. When individuals are saying, what does this mean for us? One of the possible benefits is that if it improves compliance, a lot more people paying tax coming into the tax net, one of the possible big benefits in the future will be tax rates start to come down. And that may well be the biggest benefit that people will get. Would you agree with that?
Not really, because what happens in business is that you find alternate ways. So it's not that we are doing something for the first time. The last 70 years there have been at least 40 committees and commissions that have gone into different aspects of black economy. They made thousands of suggestions and hundreds have been implemented. And yet the black economy continues to grow up. So what, for instance, one can see happening is that there may be two channels through which business is done. One is through the formal system and the other is through cash system, And, even though input credit would not be available, but this system, because your taxes are evaded, would still be cheaper. So it's possible that both these things happen. But I'd like to add one point, which is the difficulties that are coming in GST are because the Indian economy is very heterogeneous. You have large scale, medium scale, small scale and cottage industry, and they're all not the same. So the same tax applicable to all is what is creating the big problem, because the small scale and the cottage sector is not going to be able to deal with this in the same way as large scale would do.
Mahesh, get another sense from you. Do you want to add anything to that on what I was saying about possibility of rates coming down?
I don't think in the near future there should be the rates that need to come down, because
the Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramaniam told me when I spoke to him today, he thought that over a period of time, maybe converging around the 12 to 14% rate. Now, maybe that's a period of time, could be anything. It's taken us 17 years to get here on GST.
Rates, at the moment there are 80 lakh businesses paying VAT, excise, etc. existing, which are now being migrated to the new system. Rates would come down if this 80 lakh goes up to say 2 crores over the next. So the base has to increase.
Which is. I'm not saying it's not. It is certainly possible that it's going to increase. But Hema Malini there as well, Anand Kumar. So continuing to show you these pictures from Parliament.
No, I do think that the initial Chief Economic Advisor's report itself talked about a 15.3% rate, and I do think that somewhere there will need to be a convergence of this 12 and 18, even these 5 and 28 category has just been brought in a few months ago. So I do see some level of consolidation, and over time with the tax efficiencies from businesses and more tax compliance, there should be a much lower rate.
There is a bigger philosophical issue, Vikram, from what Arun Kumar was saying, Arvind Datar was talking about. We are still not giving the impact of enough attention to the impact of this on the informal sector. Simply because the informal sector, their transaction costs would go up, and you don't know how they'll cope. For the bigger businesses, it's a good thing.
Right. Gurcharan Das, I want to get one more final word from you, because any minute now the President is going to arrive, and then we'll be going across into Parliament and leaving you there. Let me get one more quick word from you from London as we see these pictures from inside Parliament.
Well, as a person who spent part of his career in the consumer product business, I think that it's really revolutionary how the logistics will change across the country. All these issues that you've discussed here are significant issues in formal economy, etc. But as Indians India is a consumption-driven economy, and a consumption-driven economy, which when at a time when I was running my company, this is Procter & Gamble, it was a nightmare. We had to deal with every state. We had to deal with
Gurcharan, I'm just going to pause you for a minute there. We are seeing pictures of Narendra Modi, being formally welcomed there as he walks in. I guess the president's going to follow. So I'm just going to quickly allow you to finish your thoughts, and we'll have to go across to Parliament.
Yeah. Well, I think the important thing is that it's going to take time, but it's the right way to go. It's going to create a logistical revolution. It's going to improve efficiency, and all this in the end will be passed off down to the consumer in terms of lower prices. It will be passed on to the government in terms of more revenues. So overall, it's a very big historic moment, and I'm so glad that you're showing the whole of Parliament, which it will conjure. I can guess what Narendra Modi is going to say, but he is going to evoke 1947, that kind of freedom that a sensible tax rate can bring to business and to commerce.
All right, Gurcharan Das, thank you so much for having joined us. We are continuing to see these images from a Parliament that's looking really good. Of course, we've been seeing those images from inside Parliament. You cannot see most members of the opposition there. Nitish Kumar has sent a minister, but most of the opposition is staying away. They're saying it's a tamasha. They're saying that this is not what Parliament should actually be used for. A lot of other dignitaries have, of course, been invited, including Amitabh Bachchan, Lata Mangeshkar. I'm not sure I have as yet seen any pictures of them inside Parliament. While we're waiting for the President to come, and I think he'll be here any minute, Jagdish Shettikar, I just wanted to ask you once. You were there as an economic advisor of the Bajpayee government, the time when GST was perhaps first. The Vice President, I think, just arrived, Mr. Hamid Ansari, yes. There we see him, the Vice President has arrived, being received by Narendra Modi, and the President, no doubt, is going to follow very soon. When Mr. Bajpayee and you and others were first talking about GST way back in 2000, to your mind, what was the single biggest benefit? The single market part of it, formalization of the economy part of it, lower indirect tax, simplification. What to your mind was the biggest benefit?
It cannot be single benefit. It is a multi-effect. All the stakeholders economy, whether it is the consumers or the investors or the government, everybody will be benefited. It's not just integrating the entire country into single market. Even the transparency in the business, that is what I think Mukesh, you have pointed out, that you cannot see this just from the point of the rates. In the whole transparency, the leakage points will be unplugged. Now, the pessimism pointed out by Arun Kumar, I don't agree that unless there is a complete coordination right from the bottom till the end, it is not possible to evade the tax. Whereas in the different parts of the country, in fact, I was not able to understand why they were opposing the tax, because the tax will be passed on to the consumer. Ultimately, with with some comfort level, I got the answer that said that they collect the tax and they don't pass on to the government.
Mahesh,
which is not possible
to
right
evade
now.
tax now, you think?
Yes, it is indeed tougher because there are a lot of checks and balances, and the other part is the last mile. Even if there's a call taken that should I make a sale without a bill, what you really gain is so little. So there's really that incentive to have a sale in parallel economy indeed is going to come down.
Mahesh, but what about real estate? For instance, real estate is out of it.
That's right.
So you could still do a black transaction 60%.
No, that is another
two parts of the real estate.
Apart from petroleum products,
I think the way it happens is that suppose in India you consider spurious drugs, for instance, right? That will be completely out of the chain, right?
Sure.
You have, for instance, in food stuff, a lot of adulteration, right? That will be complete. So there are whole chains which will happen. For instance, in manufacturing industry, people, in continuous process, they say electricity failed and therefore this is junk. But actually it's first, but they're selling it at the price of this thing. So there are all kinds of mechanisms by which the black incomes are generated, which will remain outside the...
Nishant, perhaps time for one last 15-second comment from you. Nishant, can you hear me?
Very good move. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I
please
think
carry
it's a
on.
very good move that it's a very good move by the government, and you know I've been hearing this that is should we have waited for the best or should have let good become the enemy of the best. But having introduced this, there are going to be some teething troubles, but Mr. Hasmukh Adhia has also been clear that if there is going to be no penal consequences and things, if there is a genuine error in complying with some of the requirements, so the government may have to be a little liberal in the initial stages, but I think that's clear with the government also, and the government has made it very. But another very important point is that we are seeing a synchronization of all the authorities.
Nishant, I'm afraid I'm going to have to pause you there for the moment and go across to Parliament because the President has just arrived there. Thanks a lot, Nishant, for having joined us with those perspectives. So the President of India, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, arriving. He's going to be walking in right now, and then no doubt we're going to have the national anthem in just a couple of minutes. So that's the President of India being welcomed and will be taken into Parliament.
और राष्ट्रपति के तौर पर भी प्रणब मुखर्जी जी जब एक तरह से आज संबोधित करेंगे तो उनको बहुत सारी पुरानी बातें याद आएंगी जो जीएसटी के
and he's now heading towards the central hall.
जहां जिन लोगों का इंतजार था, जिन गणमान्य व्यक्तियों का इंतजार था, सभी पहुंच गए हैं अब सेंट्रल हॉल.
Right, so we are continuing to see these images from Parliament. All the parliamentarians are there. As we've been telling you all along, not too many members of the opposition parties are there. This has been boycotted by a large number of them who felt this wasn't the right thing to do. They may still welcome GST, but they didn't think that you should have this midnight session of Parliament out there. A couple of them are there, of course, but some others have boycotted. Now the President is going to walk in right now, and then in a minute or two we should all rise for the national anthem. We are being told that the sequence is going to be the Finance Minister is going to make a couple of comments, the Prime Minister is going to make comments, and the President is going to make comments, and then at midnight is going to be there's going to be a presentation on GST, on what the benefits and so forth are of GST, and at midnight there is going to be a gong that is going to be rung, which will essentially signify that India is now in the GST regime. There you are seeing the images of the President walking into Parliament. That's the Vice President, actually, Hamid Ansari, you can see also next to the President as they enter the Houses of Parliament.
Is the President also speaking? Yeah, President speaking.
Yeah, the President is expected to speak, the Prime Minister will be speaking, Arun Jaitley is going to be speaking, at least as per the schedule that we've been given.
Earlier they said 20 minutes, no? 20 minutes? 20 minutes.
Yeah.
When he was Finance Minister with the previous UPA government, so we are sure that he had...
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is there walking the President inside. Just in case you are wondering what is going to be the schedule, there's going to be an announcement by a Marshal. Playing of the national anthem will take place in a couple of minutes. There will be some introductory remarks by the Finance Minister, a presentation on GST, address by the Prime Minister, address by the President, and then the launch of GST will take place at midnight. That is roughly what we are expecting. But I think the first item at which point all of us should rise will be in a minute or so, which will be the playing of the national anthem. But there's the President of India, Pranab Mukherjee, walking in.
Right, so India has created a historic...
Right, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to GST. India is now in the GST regime. That gong was rung. It's now the 1st of July, and as a result of that, GST is now a reality. We heard speeches there from Arun Jaitley, from the Prime Minister, and then finally from the President, who it was of course an interesting speech from the President. He himself has been the Finance Minister, and so there was all those personal anecdotes also of what he had to do at the time when he was the Finance Minister earlier and was working in kick-starting the entire process. We're going to continue to stay with these pictures from Parliament as the President leaves, as the others are escorting him out. That's the Prime Minister, you can see, also stepping out. We still have with us Mr. Shettigar, Mukesh Butani is still with us, Mr. Professor Arun Kumar is still with us, Venu is still with us. All of us been sitting here hearing those speeches. And while we stay with these pictures, I'm just going to try and get everyone to give a quick, snap reaction to the speeches itself and what we've heard. Jagdish, why don't we start with you? Jagdish Chettigar.
All that I say, that is definitely a game changer as far as the economy is concerned. As I mentioned, all the stakeholders will be benefited. And I am hopeful that shortly, whatever the shortcomings are there, that is in terms, one, minimizing the slabs, because that gives a scope for the lobbying. That should be actually the minimized maximum 2 slabs. Then also some of the major sectors like petroleum products and the construction and liquor and tobacco should be brought in.
So those are the subsequent changes that need to be done to make this
I think
better.
Once the...
But I just wanted to get your sense of what we actually saw, the Prime Minister said. There's a lot, of course, it ended up being a non-confrontational. It was all of it. The Prime Minister repeatedly said it's not just the victory of one party or one government. We've all done it together. It's a victory of cooperative federalism. And it was interesting that though the Congress had officially boycotted, I want to get you in on this point. It's interesting that though the Congress had in a sense officially boycotted that, and as a result of which Manmohan Singh was not there, the former Prime Minister. The fact that the President was there, he of course had been the Finance Minister who kick-started a lot of this. So some of that did come in.
And I found it interesting, Vikram, that while Arun Jaitley laid the basic frame, talked about the history of the whole tax, and how people had contributed to it, different regimes, different set of people. The Prime Minister's address was very political. He said, he specifically said, emphasized that without going into the jargon, economic jargon that governs tax like this, he said that it simply put, this will be good for, this will deliver value to the poor, and poor where? Eastern UP, the eastern belt that he keeps talking about. So I thought that was very significant. And Pranab Mukherjee,
you can see the pictures out there. While you're speaking, the Prime Minister, shaking hands with the President, and as he heads off there. So political, but at the same time, the Prime Minister is also at pains to say that this is not just one party, one government.
Of course, that was
Given the way that it panned out, again sticking on the politics before we come back to the economics, do you think the Congress may regret not having been there? Or do you think that will depend entirely on the crucial question of how bad the teething trouble is?
Okay, you hit the nail on the head. What did the Prime Minister end with? Good and simple tax. It's a good tax, everybody agrees. But will it be simple over the next 1 year? How the large constituency of small traders, small businesses. I think Congress is hedging its bets. It is saying that we were part of the constitution bill, we cleared everything, but we want...
So you mean the best of both worlds? The opposition feels you can have the best of both worlds. If GST ends up being a big success, we all did it together. If GST has major teething trouble in the next 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, then the opposition can sit back and think, see, we told you, we agreed with the GST, but why did you push it?
And Pranab Mukherjee emphasized that. Pranab Mukherjee said, if you remember, he said that the speed with which you course correct is very important, and the GST Council must sit frequently, constantly poring over what needs to be done, refined. I think that's very critical.
Okay. Let me just go across to Sunetra, who's been there, of course, keeping an eye on everything that happened at Parliament. Sunetra, any quick snap reaction? We're just trying to debate here on the political aspect of it before we come down to the economics and how that's going to play itself out. Whether at the end of the day the opposition is going to end up feeling that we missed out a chance to actually be there, or whether they're trying to have the best of both worlds, that if GST is a grand success, eventually they will say we were party to it. If there's teething trouble, they'll say, well, we told you not to do it in a hurry.
Well, in fact, as I show you pictures of how all the VIP cars are already leaving, so everybody's making their way out, and we see, in fact, the Prime Minister and others leaving out. That's why you see everything blocked over here. because the route, as they say, all the VIPs, the President and the Prime Minister, they're all leaving right now after this midnight session. But as you were saying about what the Congress must be feeling, we already see some misgivings being voiced by certain Congress members. You see people like former Minister Milind Deora, who's gone ahead and said that there may be teething problems, but it is going to be good in the long run, and others as well. And of course, people from the opposition who were otherwise, we see the divisions coming out, people from the NCP and all there over there. But congressmen as well, Milind Deora's tweet, and Milind Deora has always been the one, just to show you the pictures, if the camera person can just show the people leaving Parliament right now. We have Prime Minister and other people leaving right now, but as that's happening, I'm just going to tell you, as reactions coming in, that already misgivings there. The Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, may not have been there, but we're already seeing voices like Milind Deora's coming out and saying that it is going to be good in the long run. So while the opposition has been focusing on why this drama, they're all focusing on the fact that why haven't you fixed it?
Yeah.
You should have fixed it before you implemented it. But others like Milind Deora and all saying that look, in the long run it is going to be beneficial, and that's what we heard in the speeches as well.
Yeah, I think very few people are, Sunitra, seriously doubting that in the long term it is a good step. The question is largely on the short term and what's going to happen immediately, whether there will be teething problems, but long term, especially if they start fixing some of the things that are wrong with it, like making it simpler, nobody doubts that. Very interesting, Sunitra, the fact that the President is Pranab Mukherjee, who was speaking today, being finance minister, and he came up with all those personal anecdotes, which was, I think, one of the most interesting parts of what we just heard about what he used to feel when he was the finance minister. And that really interesting reference to the fact that when he was the finance minister, he had a conversation then with the Chief Minister of Gujarat, which you will recall, of course, at that point was Narendra Modi, and I'm sure Narendra Modi also must have been smiling and chuckling.
And he opposed GST at that time.
At that time, and Pranab Mukherjee referred to the fact that I still remember the discussions and the agreements that we were having. That entire exchange was perhaps one of the most interesting aspects of this. So, Sunitra, in a sense, the UPA government, I mean, of course, Pranab Mukherjee is now president, so he's above party politics, but he did get a chance to refer to some of what happened in that entire build-up in the UPA. So Manmohan Singh wasn't there, but the person who at that time was his finance minister, in a sense, did get a chance to speak.
Well, that's
in his capacity as president.
And you're talking about Pranab Mukherjee, and towards the end of his tenure, we saw what the Prime Minister also said about him. And what's interesting for our viewers to know is that today the President wholeheartedly welcomed the whole GST regime and talked about what a historic moment it is. Tomorrow the President has another date. Tomorrow evening the President is going to be inaugurating and launching the National Herald newspaper here in the capital, which is obviously a very, very Congress event, which is going to be attended by all the senior top Congress leaders. That's going to take place at the Rajiv Gandhi Bhavan. So two big occasions, one today of course as President, and the other one, a lot of the Congress event which he is going to be inaugurating. We saw when National Herald was being inaugurated in Bangalore, it was the Vice President, but tomorrow Pranab Mukherjee has that event as well. Right. But apart from that, what we saw from the speeches, what you said earlier, Vikram, was that how non-confrontational it was. And perhaps in the finance minister's speeches, there were lots of references. People who were boycotting the Trinamool Congress, the finance minister didn't leave out mentioning the Bengal finance minister, among others. So there was a conscious effort to keep it inclusive, to talk about everyone, to talk about the fact that the role that everybody played, previous government played, and also, of course, Manmohan Singh's role as well.
The standing committee headed by Yashwant Sinha has not necessarily been on the best of terms with this government right now. So yes, there was a lot of efforts to reach out in that. Sunitra, thanks a lot for having joined us and given us a sense of what's happening there in Parliament. But let me just quickly, before I come back to the panel here and try and get some final concluding remarks from that, just want to go very quickly to Maya, who's there at that, and she's been there at that shopping mall for a long period of time. So I'm starting to worry a little bit about the state or the health of her credit card by now. Maya, what decision did most of the people make out there? Were they buying before midnight or are they buying now? Or both, as in your case?
Vikram, they poured in after the shop's regular closing hours to shop, but they're paying after midnight. In fact, it was a bit of a worry for me. I was wondering what was going to be left for my shopping. So lots of people coming in at midnight. This is not your usual shopping time. Is it for the discounts? Is it to celebrate GST or a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of those. It's a very good thing that GST is coming up now. At the same time, the discounts and the price drop is really good for us to shop. So that's what we are doing as of now.
All right. I mean, like midnight shopping, and you've also come in. I'm sure this isn't a usual shopping time for the family, right? So what have you got? What prices are up? What prices are down?
I think so it's 30% off, so it's cool, very cool.
So doesn't matter whether the tax has gone up on the product or not, the overall 30% discount takes care of everything.
Yeah, sure.
Right, okay. And there's been quite a crowd of people coming in constantly. Before midnight as well, they've been filling up their carts but letting people go. So really a huge response here.
Yeah, huge response. We're not expecting. I think almost 600 people walked into the store
600 people so
yeah,
far.
Yeah, and it's going on, still going on. A lot of customers waiting.
Maya will allow
600 shoppers in now and counting, Vikram.
All right, Maya, we'll allow you to now go and pay for whatever's in your cart, which must be extensive and massive. Actually, it's only, I guess, the only reason to be shopping at midnight right now, and Butani, help me understand the economics of this, is if those particular stores are offering a discount at this time. Otherwise, the new GST rates are therefore good now. It's not like demonetization where you have to run and try and get rid of your notes at a certain point.
Well, the simple reason for people shopping now is that distributors and retailers who have bought the goods, in the post-GST regime, there is a cap on the amount of credit they are going to get for taxes paid in the previous chain. And there's uncertainty, so they might as well clear it out, because what will happen post GST is that they will have to charge the full rate of taxes.
Okay, so that's clear. But actually GST is already here, it's post midnight, so I don't know why they're having a sale now, because logically speaking,
some of them would have transacted before midnight.
Yeah, before. Yeah, because why have a sale after midnight? Because now it's the GST regime. In fact, it is the GST regime, so I'm rather curious as to what's happening to all those truckers waiting to pay octroi. So let me see if I can go across to Nikhil.
You need to verify whether now what they're buying, is it the GST rate? I doubt. It can't be the previous. It can't be.
It can't be chasing that far?
Yeah.
Can't change so quickly. At 12 you just change your bills and so on.
Yeah, it can't be.
So the billing must be the old one, which is
must be the old billing. So but I'm saying if it's a new rate, you don't have to rush to the markets right now. If it's on a sale, those are the new rates that are going to stay for a long period of time. One of the immediate changes though, I wonder what's happening to those truckers who've been there at that octroi post. Are they being allowed to whiz through? Let me go across to Nikhil actually. Nikhil, you've been standing there at that octroi post. I see Abhishek there, who's also at a shopping mall. I'm going to go to him. But Nikhil, at that octroi post behind you, they don't have to pay octroi anymore. GST is here. Tell them to, I mean, what are they doing? Are they still paying octroi, or are they just driving off now?
Well, Vikram, the interesting thing here is we just spoke to those who are manning this octroi booth, and they say that the receipts that are cut till the 30th of this month, i.e. till yesterday now, regardless of where they bring in those, receipts from the country, they will continue to follow the old procedure. So they'll come here, they'll fill in forms like these. This is a VAT form, but there are separate forms for octroi. They'll fill in forms like these. Those forms will be stamped. They'll have to be entered manually into the computer. So all those things all those forms that are dated to the 30th, even if the truck drivers were to come in 10 days from now, will follow the same old process. After the 1st, the forms dated post the 1st will then work with the new, the GST modalities. Let's get a sense from some of the truck drivers quickly. आप ये बताइए 12:30 हो चुके हैं, GST को आधा घंटा हुआ है. ट्रक ड्राइवर के लिए अभी क्या बदला है?
ऐसा है जी, अभी तक तो कुछ बदला नहीं है. बॉर्डर के ऊपर लाइन ऐसे ही है, फार्म भरा जा रहा है. अगर फार्म हमारा नेट पे नहीं चढ़ा तो वो जहां हम कलकत्ता जा रहे हैं या मद्रास जा रहे हैं, वहां से हमारे को फार्म लेके आना पड़ेगा, फिर हमारे को यहाँ एंट्री करवानी पड़ेगी, फिर हमारी गाड़ी छूटेगी. तो ये जो
All right, Nikhil, I'm just trying to get a quick wrap up from a number of people, so I get the sense out there. Obviously, they're not going to get an immediate, if it's an old invoice, it still has to be done. I mean, you can't expect those dramatic visuals of it turns midnight and suddenly everyone's driving off and not paying octroi. I was hoping for those visuals, but obviously it's not going to quite happen right now. Nikhil, thanks a lot for manning that particular octroi post for a long period of time. Abhishek, I want to quickly get a sense from you what's happening around you. And why are people, we're just trying to figure out why are people shopping at midnight unless it's a special sale. If it's a new rate, then that new rate applies for good from now onwards. So what's the point?
So Vikram, I mean, it is because of the fact that the store that I am at is offering big discount. We're talking about anywhere between 5 to 22% off, and on top of that, a cashback of 300 on every 1,000 rupees spent. In fact, I have with me a bunch of shoppers here, two very young shoppers who were asked by their father at midnight to join him on his shopping spree. We were talking earlier. Why are you here? What did Dad tell you?
That there is sale.
What sale?
GTS.
Okay.
GTS. No.
GST sale,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So what did he promise you that he'll buy you?
I don't know. Nothing.
Okay, nothing. What about you, Rehan? What did you ask your dad to buy you? Come here, come here, come here. What did your dad say when he said we are going out shopping? What did he say he'll buy you? I think he has forgotten what the promises that you made him. So sir, why are you here at this time?
Actually,
it's not usual midnight shopping.
This is not usual. Actually, I heard that there is a sale for GST and the discount is 222. But actually, I have no idea what's the sale now.
Right. So Vikram, as you heard, I had lots and lots of people talking to me, and of course they have all started disappearing. The billing counters just opened at 12, so they're all sort of trying to wrap up their shopping, and it's pretty late.
Tell those kids to hold their dad accountable for whatever he had promised to buy them. And I think it would be fair from an economic point of view to analyze that. This is a sale. It's not the direct impact of GST just yet. It's a nice marketing gimmick by whichever that store is. It's not an immediate impact of GST. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely.
Correct. Okay. Now I want to just get final words from all of you. What would be the first signals? Look, this is not demonetization. You're not going to have long queues of people standing at ATMs trying to cash in machines. What are the first signals that we should be looking for from tomorrow, day after, the day after that, to see is everything on track, or are the problems worse than they were? What would you be looking for the next 2-3 days? Final thoughts.
See, Vikram, as far as the large number of small traders, shopkeepers are concerned, they've already been given a reprieve. What they've been told is, the college is open, but you need not go to the class. They need not file returns, etc.
They've been giving some leeway.
Yeah, leeway. Yeah.
The teething trouble leeway.
Yeah.
Adya also said we're not going to be using tough provisions. We understand there'll be mistakes made.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a soft period where.
It's a soft period. Yeah. It's like I tell you, typically, it's net practice. They're telling these guys that on the nets you may get out, but you won't be asked to leave the field.
Okay. or like when you're batting in a match and you got a second batting in case you make a mistake. What would you look for in the next few days?
So, the GST is now a reality. And I think the President has also cautioned that there is disruptive impact, and he said there will be teething troubles, and how quickly can there be implementation of effective reforms.
Yeah.
So I think that's what is the important thing to look out for, that the problems, how responsive would the government be to these problems, and how quickly would the council meet to reform it. Because earlier it was said that we will not have periodic changes. The changes will not take place quickly. Now the
council will have to meet, see what's happening as a result of this, and they've already shown some proactiveness, like the fertilizer change that they made just before.
But a few days back, when the GST and network chairperson was being interviewed, he said we are not going to have too many changes. But that I think has to change.
And then the council, all right. The council was saying that hopefully they won't have to meet so frequently after post July 1.
Now they may well have to.
So I think
the
real difference would be between the organized trade and the unorganized trade. The unorganized trade is going to experience a lot of upheaval in the next few weeks. The organized trade would be business as usual. I also think that the transactions in larger cities...
That's not entirely a bad thing. That means the organized trade is going to become part of the organized trade.
So I'm saying it as
and certainly people who are unorganized for the reason of avoiding tax, if they are being dragged kicking and screaming into the organized sector and being forced to pay tax, that's a good step.
Absolutely. And the other difference would be that you will see smaller cities struggling a little bit. I was earlier explaining to MK my experience with a couple of traders in Amritsar on the weekend when I was there. So I think they're grappling with the degree of complexity that this poses in. They also are unfamiliar with what kind of tools do they need to be able to comply with the law?
Yeah.
So those things will happen, and I think the government will do well by extending this 2 months window that they have given, and I feel confident that they will do that to say 4 months, 6 months, because at the end of the
harm in it, because you've got your deadline, it's in place, there's a certain, the signal has been sent, you're serious about this, and then get people.
I also feel that the GST Council will meet more frequently because there are still several issues, grey areas on the classification matters, and I think they will resolve those as well.
Fine. Last word on the show from you, Dr. Jagdish Chhattikar. Do you agree with him that perhaps the government will be, and give a soft signal that we'll be a little more lax in the first 2-3 months in how we are enforcing this to give people time to settle out? Softer in it, like don't punish people for not having completely the right.
Definitely the government will have the soft approach, but overall I feel that psychological comforts will be there. But at the same time, there may be transitional problem maybe there. That is where I think then a lot of, the demand will come for the chartered accountants or the
or the consultants. You just put a smile on Mukesh Butani's face. Lot of demand for consultants.
No, that is why I was wondering when Datar was against this GST. I was wondering why.
One more thing, Vikram, I'd just like to watch.
Out of time. Yeah, last second.
I'd like to watch quarterly GDP data, which has been last 3 quarters really coming down 1 percentage points gross value add. We'll have to watch that,
and to see how that shapes up. All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for having been with us, and that's where we're going to end this very special coverage of what we are calling the midnight tryst with GST. Session has happened. We are now in the GST regime. It's a completely new tax world out there now when it comes to indirect taxation. And yes, they're going to be teething troubles. Yes, there are going to be problems. And as we've been hearing all along from the government especially, is that it's not yet perfect, but we'll go on changing it. However, it is a paradigm shift, and it is a big bang reform that has just happened. Welcome to GST India, and we'll see you on the other side of this break. Bye for now.